Dude, I believe it. I think this is the true way.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cordkillers. This is a show where myself, Tom Merritt, and my co-host Brian Brushwood do our best in these trying times to lay down in front of you the things you need to know to be able to watch television the way you want, when you want, where you want, on whatever device you want, which we think is very important. I'm Tom Merritt.
It's important enough for us to show up every freaking week for half a decade now. Wait, maybe
Look,
longer?
we like to watch. We like to watch television and movies. You like to watch television and movies. How are you going to do that in this strange serpentine world of streaming and cable and over-the-air antennas? We help make sense of all of that.
Yeah, Tom, I'm sorry. It's too Byzantine. Nobody could possibly ever cut the cord and still watch everything they want. I'm calling it our show's a lie.
It's not a lie. In fact, I have been watching everything just streaming over the air. I don't pay a cable bill anymore, Brian.
Oh, well, tell me your powers, sir.
Well, you don't either, do you?
No, I don't, but I'm trying to segue.
Well, there you go. We're living witnesses.
I'm trying to segue into the primary target.
All right, let's do that. Netflix. Netflix is one of those main ways that you can watch all of these sorts of things. They got lots of original shows. They've got lots of old reruns of Hawaii Five-0 and other things. Probably not the best example. And they have original movies, which you can now see in theaters. They reached a deal with luxury theater chain iPic, spelled very hiply, IPIC. They will screen 10 of Netflix's movies simultaneously with release. iPic has a total of 15 locations in the United States, Brian.
Yeah, well, and specifically, if I read this article correctly, it sounds like the deal only guarantees Netflix day and date original debuts in 2 cities, in New York and Los Angeles, although they do have theaters here in Austin as well. And
I don't think it's a limit to that guarantee. They only mention those as the ones scheduled so far.
Oh, I got it. Dude, well, if they come to all the iPic theaters, then I cannot wait for us to do a simultaneous, like we won't be in the same physical theater, right? But you and I could both go to an iPic theater to see the premiere of our choosing, and we could give a report on the whole experience.
And then we both cheat and watch it on Netflix at home and pretend like we went to the theater.
It becomes painfully obvious halfway through the episode that neither of us actually went.
Left our houses.
You know, just like being there and with popcorn, and it was just great having people whispering all around me as opposed to my own home.
Yeah, and the deal with iPic is they are a luxury dine-in theater. So they have like super high-end food and incredibly comfortable overstuffed seats, and they have like a premium section and a regular section. So they are in the business of saying, we think you'll want to come to our theater to enjoy the theater experience. We don't care if you can watch it at home. We're going to argue that we have a better experience than what you could have at home on your couch.
Yeah, am I mistaken? Is this the theater that actually gives you a blanket to cozy up during the... Yeah. Yes, I'm mistaken, or yes, this is the...
No, yes, this is the theater that gives you a blanketing.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're supposed to be over the top. I'm pretty excited about that.
And if you're like, wait, why is Netflix doing this? Why do they care? I thought they just want you to subscribe to Netflix. They also would like to win awards, and to win awards, you have to be shown in a certain number of theaters, especially in Los Angeles and New York, a certain number of days in a row. And so getting an iPic distribution deal makes that easier. They've done that in the past. If you remember, they've been nominated for Oscars for like a Beast of No Nation. But they had to work really hard with independent theaters to cobble together a qualifier. This means they don't have to think about it anymore.
Number one, there is a full-on boycott, like AMC, any of the big theater chains have flat out said, we will not consider running any of your movies unless we have an exclusive on it. No day and date, anything, full stop. And so the fact that this is a chain, and to be honest, I'll bet you $1 billion that I don't have, that they were talking to the Alamo Drafthouse as well, because they are also a small independent theater chain. I wouldn't be surprised if something like this came to them as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wonder if the iPic thing goes well, if they'll be able to pick up some more of these smaller, medium-level independent chains. They aren't getting Regal. They aren't getting AMC, as Brian says. And in fact, Reed Hastings told the New Yorker Tech Fest event Friday, movie theaters are strangling the movie business. There's been no innovation in the movie business in the last 50 years. Said studios are wanting to experiment with direct distribution, but fear the theater owner's wrath. he says, and then he said a few other things about Netflix. But speaking specifically on theaters, he's declaring war, Brian.
Yeah, not without good cause. I mean, to be honest, the purpose of a theater has to change because we're living in a world where there's no technological reason to prevent day and date release across the board. There's complications. Like, for example, this iPic thing. What if they debuted Stranger Things and called it a 9-hour movie? And then submitted it in various Oscar categories or whatever. Like, all of a sudden it blurs the lines. Now, of course, it's episodic and it has, 10 breaks and so on.
Anybody could do that, though, and nobody does that because I think they know the Oscar Academy just won't vote it in. Probably.
Of course. But I mean, it cracks open the door to massive changes in the way all this stuff works, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly about like we don't want to give out the revenue we know we have a stranglehold on as the large theater chains, and we are afraid of moving forward. Whereas iPic is saying anything that will get people to realize we exist. There's one not far from my house here. I had no idea it was there. Because it's not listed on Fandango.
So this is why iPic is such a good match, because iPic is not selling themselves as a movie theater. They are selling themselves as a premium movie watching experience that just happens to require you getting in the car and going to a place outside of your living room. But there is a difference because when if you're just a movie theater, then what you're really doing is exploiting the scarcity of the windowed time release where you have an exclusive on it and you're the only place to go. That's why it's like we're going to force you to come here because we're the only game in town, and that's why we're going to charge $5 for a bucket of popcorn or whatever. But by flipping that model on its head, iPic puts themselves in a position where it's like, yeah, you can watch movies anywhere. You can watch them on your phone if you want. Yeah. But that's not going to be the best experience.
There are a couple of movies every year, Star Wars is the best example, that I will go to see because that is the only place I can see it yet, and I want to see it right away. But those are very few. Other movies that I don't see the weekend they come out, if I go to see them, it's because I want to go to a movie. And I am more likely then to go to one of these theaters that's dine-in like the Alamo, or to go to the Cinemark theater that has the thing where they'll bring you order it at a desk, but they bring the food out to you and they have a little comfier seats. I will go for that experience because, yes, all theaters have like a bigger screen and better sound system than I have at home. But I want something a little more than that, and that's what iPic is doing.
Yeah, so here's the question is, do you think Netflix's heart is really in making any kind of blockbuster experience? I mean, it is transparent, and, read between the lines with what even Reed Hastings says. They're doing this so they can qualify for movie awards like the Oscars. But is there a chance that Netflix could create a blockbuster experience where everyone says you have to go
Brad
see it in
Pitt
the theater?
And Will Smith in two of the movies coming out in iPic. So yeah, kind of feel like they are moving that way.
Yeah. Wow. Wouldn't that be interesting?
A couple other Netflix things going on. Netflix says, Reed Hastings said at the same New Yorker Tech Fest event, they're going to stay away from live sports. People keep asking them about that. They keep denying it until the day that they stop denying it. I think they mean it. Like, it's not something that's on their agenda right now.
Well, and it's also, it would be wildly off-brand. I just can't understand. There's nothing about Netflix that I associate with live up to the minute, what people are talking about. Like the Twitter sports affiliations, I think are brilliant. That's a smart way to do it. But with Netflix, if I think of anything sports related on Netflix, it's going to be like a partnership with ESPN's 30 for 30 series, where it's going to be in-depth, clever documentaries of original programming.
Until the day that they don't, right? But that would be, like you say, that would have to be a huge pivot, and they would have to change the way we think about Netflix because we don't think of it as live.
I guess I'm just surprised that that's even a rumor. Like, I just wonder who's got that idea in their head that would make sense, either internally at Netflix or externally in the media.
Oh, a bunch of commentators and press out there have that idea because they're just say like, oh, well, there's certain things you have to capture to win the market in sports, and why would Netflix get into this? Because they can stream movies. So
interesting.
I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I don't think it makes sense for them yet. I wouldn't say it will never make sense for them, but what they're saying is pretty reasonable to me. Also, they don't really care much about VR. They've got some VR apps out there, but they're basically just taking the Netflix 2D experience and putting it in kind of a VR setting.
And specifically, he made the prediction that it's just going to be games for the next 5 years, which I think is spot on. It's the only way. It's the only thing VR really has going for it for right now.
Minor note here, Netflix hired Bela Baharia as VP of Content. She will be in charge of developing content and acquiring rights, replacing Sean Carey. She worked from the NBC side with Netflix on Master of None, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which were produced out of NBC for Netflix, and will oversee development of original unscripted as well. But the last thing I think is probably got a little more fodder for discussion here. Rumors flying of Disney or Apple buying Netflix. Now, Big Jim, who's in the audience for Daily Tech News Show and for Cordkillers, has been saying this forever. And I keep arguing with him like Netflix has no incentive to sell. Why would they want to sell? They're growing. But now that the subscribers in the US have started to stagnate, these rumors are starting to pick up a little more credibility. And there was an article in TechCrunch arguing that, yeah, they're going to need the help to keep feeding the content machine. And if they went to Disney, they could do it because it's just part of Disney and that's what Disney does. Or if they went to Apple, Apple has the cash to be able to pour into that because Apple sees that sort of thing as a marketing expense anyway. That's why they have Apple Music. And both of these companies would benefit from having a huge streaming brand along with them. Apple because they could bundle it into Apple TV, of course, and Disney because they don't really have a strong streaming platform. They have Make and a few other things like that. I still don't see Netflix wanting to do this yet. Do you, Brian?
I do actually. I think that Netflix has a problem in that they've shown explosive growth, and their stock price has reflected that incredible growth, that development, that maturity. They're now doing originals. They are reaching a not just national saturation point, but an international saturation point where they just can't get any more people. That's when people get a little feisty. I mean, you could go into like a Rolling Stone style White Dwarf dormancy where everybody buys Netflix stock just to cash in the dividends because they're old reliable, but that's not very popular with a lot of folks,
also
building
it's pretty
businesses.
early in the life cycle for Netflix too.
Sure. But at this point, they're looking at serious problems if they want to maintain this growth, because I don't think they can. And so instead, that is, and again, that whole parallel with Apple wanted to take on live streaming music. They couldn't do it. They found a mature player in the market and they bought Beats and branded it Apple Music. I actually don't think if they were to buy it, they would rebrand Netflix. I think that's too valuable a brand for them to mess with. But it would make perfect sense if it's a loss leader. If you get exclusives, get it early on an Apple device, whatever. They can open up windowing and a bunch of stuff that'll be hugely unpopular. But it makes a lot of sense for a lot of players.
I think it makes sense for Apple. If they weren't to do it, it would be a cultural thing, because Apple does weird cultural things of like, yeah, it makes sense on paper, but it doesn't fit or whatever. That would be the only reason I could see Apple not doing it. It makes perfect sense for Disney. I think Disney would do it in a heartbeat, probably.
Well, and plus,
I just don't think Reed Hastings. Remember, this is the guy who is like bravado personified. I don't think he is at the point where he doesn't think he can grow internationally. I think he even thinks he can still grow domestically. And he may be right about international. I'm not sure about domestic.
Yeah, but on the other hand, too, he's been playing this game a long time. And the opportunity to be told, declare victory, be known forever, will keep you on. You're still in charge. And that's the reason I think Disney's the more likely suitor, is because Disney's very good at buying studios and properties and letting them continue to do their own thing, letting them continue to keep their own corporate culture. I think you're right that Reed would not want to sell to Apple if Apple's going to come in and Appleize everything. But Disney could very easily say, this is distribution deals. You're going to get the hottest movies. What if the Doctor Strange 2 premiered day and date on Netflix at the same time? That, it's like, we've got a plan. We've got a content. That just seems like the most obvious marriage ever.
I don't think Netflix stock is maxed out yet. That's my only last objection that I'll say. And I don't, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think Reed Hastings thinks that either. And so my word to Reed Hastings is, so dude, cash a couple of those shares out and back us at patreon.com/cordkillers.
Yeah, man, look, we're like your biggest cheerleader, except for the times that we were mocking you severely when you decided to split the company into two. And
who remembers that?
Nobody remembers that. But the important thing is that we support you guys and your ability to cut the cord any way you want. And if you guys could support us by heading over to patreon.com/cordkillers. Tom, and I want to freak you out. I don't want to freak you out. I got nothing against Columbus, but we're down below 1,500 target. We're down to Columbus 1492 territory on Columbus Day. Now, maybe this is a hilarious prank that the gang was pulling. But I would like to think that it's a temporary thing and we'll be back up. If you've been listening for a while, if we've saved you some jingle by giving you the ways to cut the cord, then we sure would appreciate just a taste of all that. Pledge us just $1 an episode. It means the world to us, and you'll never notice it on your credit card.
Patreon.com/Cordkillers. All right. Now it's time to tell you how to watch things. This is all about the streaming services and the devices that we use to watch the stuff we like to watch. We've got actually 3 hardware announcements to talk about this week. Roku has introduced the Roku Direct Publisher tool that lets anyone create a Roku channel without having to do any code. You still have to understand how apps work and have art that you can upload and a place where you host your content and things like that. But if you've got that, like Rolling Stone does, or Us Weekly, or Cracked, who've all used this tool to make apps. You can make one lickety-split. Channels built in the tool. Can't charge subscriptions or video-on-demand fees yet. They say they would like to add that, but you can monetize your app with ads. Also, Roku TV from Hitachi is now available from Sam's Club. The 50-inch version costs you $499 US, and they've got 55 and 65-inch models coming soon.
See, this is huge. Like we have a few technically savvy people in our Diamond Club chat realm, as we call them, who are able to put together a Diamond Club Roku channel. You're able to watch live. You're able to watch on-demand content. But I never, previous to hearing about this, I never would have considered something like, for example, our brand new property, the Modern Rogue. Seems like, I mean, it's pretty, people keep asking for Hacking the System Season 2. We got it. And as soon as we make a Roku app, by the way, if anyone wants to make a Roku app for the Modern Rogue, I'll send you all the source files and we'll host them. But yeah, man, that seems like a slam dunk. I would love to be able to point people to the Modern Rogue app.
Mac Rumors notes the Apple TV 3rd Gen is no longer listed in Apple stores. Uh-oh, this is the one that doesn't have the App Store. This is the one that doesn't have the bigger hard drive. This is the old hockey puck black one that just does the streaming, has a little bit of storage inside just for caching and stuff. It used to sell for $69. But that's not an option now. So the cheapest one you can get is the Apple TV with the App Store for $149, at least for now. There's loads of rumors that there's going to be another Apple announcement before the end of the year.
Yeah, it seems like for what they're offering right now, obviously all the marketing is pushing the high-end features, the Siri stuff, and the intelligent, multi-platform search and so on. So it makes sense that they would not try to compete with like the Google Chromecast. What are they calling it now? I forget what it is.
It's a Chrome. The device itself is still called the Chrome.
Okay, great. But it's like this gets them out of the business of trying to even pretend like they're competing with the Chromecast.
And speaking of the Chromecast, there is a new Chromecast was announced by Google called the Chromecast Ultra. It's basically the same as the Chromecast you got before, but it does 4K and HDR video and supports Dolby Vision's encoding. Google Play Movies is going to be adding 4K movies in November, so you'll have something for sure that you can cast to that. And if you're worried about your bandwidth over Wi-Fi, maybe you've got an older Wi-Fi access point. You're like, I've got plenty of bandwidth on Ethernet, but I don't want to have to buy a new router. They're going to include an Ethernet port in the power adapter, which is kind of a nifty way to do it. That is a little more expensive than the Chromecast before, $69 starting in November. And what Brian was referring to earlier, the Google Cast app, which used to be called the Chromecast app, and then when they put the audio Chromecast out, they changed it to Cast. Now it's being renamed again because they have a new product called Google Home, which is kind of a competitor for Amazon Echo. It's one of those speakers that you can talk to and tell to do things. So now the Google Cast app is going to be called Google Home.
Right. But luckily there's no product called a Google Home that would be...
No, the Google Home is the speaker. Yeah, the speaker...
So to clear up
the
confusion...
Amazon Echo competitor is called Google Home. The Cast app is now called Google Home. But it still works with the Chromecast.
Okay. Who am I to question the wisdom of Alphabet Corporation?
Sure. I mean, why not rename it again?
Well, and why not name it to a name that's already taken by another product under your own family, so that when anyone calls and says, I have a question about Google Home, you have to say, are you talking about the speaker or are you talking about the app?
Well, that's the thing, right? If you have an app that only works with Google Home, the product, calling the app Google Home makes perfect sense, right? If you have an app that works with multiple Chromecast devices, calling it Cast makes perfect sense, especially when you're trying to get people to build in the Cast functionality into TVs. So why didn't they just leave it Cast or call it HomeCast or something?
Well, and plus also, like, cast is a perfectly ambiguous word. Yes, it means to sling media from one place to another, and that made a lot of sense to pivot that when it was both video and audio content. But why not say, oh, I'm casting a spell on my home to change the atmosphere?
No, you're just casting to the Google Home.
Yes.
It's no different than a speaker plugged into the Chromecast audio.
Exactly, man. Yeah, you cast a spell. How great would that have been? Just explain that.
If I could, like, interject.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
These apps mostly just manage your devices.
But they also allow you to pick content.
Right. Oh, wait, you can pick content from
in the Cast app. It actually works like a little video search.
Correct.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Because I know you can use the new home speaker to control Chromecasts.
Correct.
So in my head, that made sense because it's just mostly managing devices.
But the app itself used to be called Google Cast,
right,
and now it's called Google Home because that makes sense.
I get what you're saying, Bryce, which is if you're just buying a Google Home and the app that controls Google Home is called Google Home, that makes sense.
Well, and also it also makes sense if what they're really doing is saying, look, we're not there now. In 5 years, we plan to be pivoted completely to this Google Home idea. We're not going to use the word Cast or Chrome or anything. Home will be how you control your video, your audio, your security, your cameras. But it's like we're going to do baby steps in that direction. So
Google I/O 2017. We're changing the name of Google Chromecast to HomeCast.
Yes, all of that. HomeCast. Dude, bad title of the show right there. Let's lock that in, that prediction.
Let's trademark it and then charge them a lot. All right, let's talk about what to watch. These are things that are, under our surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location.
Under surveillance.
A trailer for the Dark Tower movie briefly leaked online. Brian, I missed it. You didn't happen to catch it, did you?
Oh, I did. I found it. There's still a mirror up. And
nice.
And in fact, if you check my Twitter feed, that's twitter.com/Schwood, you can click a little link. You haven't seen any of it. You missed it, huh?
No, tell me what's in it.
Okay, so it's very much what we've heard in the informal leaks. There are people who have, sources familiar with the matter have sort of whispered to us saying, hey, don't tell anyone, but I'm working on this. It's very focused and very grounded. And I think this is a smart way to introduce the story to people who, don't know anything about the Stephen King expanded universe. But it's very focused on Jake Chambers. You see a scene where he's talking to a therapist about like these scenes. There's always a man in black and this gunslinger, and it's like and millions of people are gonna die, and I just feel like there's something I'm supposed to do, but I don't know what it is. And then you briefly see, look at this, I got goosebumps just thinking about this. You briefly see an interaction with Walter O'Dim, although I think they call him a different name in this, Walter something or other, Walter Sobchak. The Chinaman is not the issue.
Walter White.
But the best part, and you could tell the audio has been heavily edited, but the trailer ends. I'm sure you can remember the phrases that are being cut here, but he says, I do not shoot with my eye. He says, I do not shoot with, I do not
aim with my hand.
Yeah. There you go. I do not aim with my hand. I do not shoot with my gun. I kill with my heart. It's great. And I'm sure he gives the whole speech about he has forgotten the face of his father. So excited.
Now, and granted, if you do find this, keep in mind this is leaked from a rough edit. So if you want to start picking on it, not having good editing or something, consider your sources, people. Come on.
No, it's like there's entire chunks that are green screened. The entire thing is watermarked. It's super low definition. And to be honest, if you don't know anything about the story, you're not going to get anything out of this trailer. The only people who are going to care about this are the people who already know everything.
The Lore podcast, which examines popular myths and legends, sometimes with reenactments, is getting picked up as a TV series by Amazon, targeting early 2017.
So, man, I wish I had the time. I wish I had known early enough to actually listen to some episodes. When they do reenactments, this is all audio only, right? See, podcast is a funny word, ain't it?
Yeah. Well, why you shouldn't assume that.
Yeah. Well, I guess I assume it only because podcasting in popular culture, more often than not, is audio only. But
yeah, I think you're right. I think it is audio, but and so they're going to get some budget to actually act these things out with actors and things like that. I mean, the big point is that this podcast is becoming a television show, and they're getting a lot of support for it as well.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So you're talking about TV producers are being brought in to help to make it happen. Producer Gail Ann Hurd and program creator Aaron Mankey were on hand to talk about the show at New York Comic Con. That's where they announced it. I think the really interesting thing is a podcast, a very popular podcast, getting turned into a television show.
Yeah, can I tell you? Here's the weird part: is I understand everybody.
This is kind of along the lines of now why am I blanking on the Vimeo series that got turned into HBO?
Oh, High Maintenance.
Yeah, it's like High Maintenance.
Yeah, well, and also like a little guy we know that had a show about scams and cons on Discovery Digital and graduated to the big leagues of having a National Geographic show.
Well, sure, no, but I mean like taking the actual property and saying we're going to put it on the big platform.
Sure. Although I just wonder how long that's going to feel like an upgrade, and I wonder how quickly that will begin to feel like a lateral move.
Yeah, I think for a while. I think it's going to feel like an upgrade for a while, especially when you're going from audio to video. But like taking something and putting some Amazon and HBO money behind it in both those cases, I don't know. It seems like a really cool path, to be honest.
Yeah.
The Blade Runner sequel will be called Blade Runner 2049 and arrive in theaters October 6th, 2017. So they're announcing this about a year ahead. Harrison Ford reprises his role as Detective Rick Deckard, if you didn't know that, and he stars alongside Ryan Gosling in a setting 30 years after the original movie. And they released a still of Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford, and I believe it was who's the Asian guy that's in the
Ira Glass?
No, who did Blade Runner?
Herman Cain. Dan Rather. Arlo Guthrie.
You know.
George Burns.
Ridley Scott.
Oh yeah.
You've heard of Ridley Scott?
Yeah.
Sure.
No. Yeah.
Okay. And Dennis Villeneuve, who's the director. So all four of them in a publicity stuff.
Hey, so prediction time. Prediction time. You ready? As long as we're wildly speculating about the future, one of the long-standing geek arguments for years was whether or not Deckard was a replicant, and in recent years it's come to light where it's like, no, he's definitely a replicant, and that's definitely what I meant when the unicorn shows up in the vision and all that stuff. I would imagine, this being a straight sequel, that they probably won't begin the thing saying, hey, Deckard, so anyway, you're a replicant, as we've all known for years and years after you had that epiphany 30 years ago. My guess is he's got to be having a whole bunch of existential angst, and it has to be that has to be a major theme, is about him realizing and coming to terms with that, right?
Well, we're 30 years later, so I'm gonna say he's come to terms with it, and Gosling has been sent to retire him.
Okay, but if you watch the two movies back to back, that would be a very complicated jump, because you could watch the movie, and indeed almost everybody who did watch the movie didn't even pause to think whether or not he was a replicant. There was just tiny clues throughout. So
yeah, but you can't start a movie 30 years afterwards and say he's just now getting around to dealing with it.
Hold on. It was not clear in any of the edits that he definitely realized he was a replicant. So
you're saying he's gone 30 years not realizing?
Correct. Or unsure, or having this weird tickle, and then this is the moment that it comes through.
I personally, I think he found out right afterwards when he and Ms. Deckard to be ran off north Because in their director's cut, they all drive up to Oregon and settle down in Portland near a artisan coffee shop or something, don't they?
Well, in some of those
make it up
edits,
the part
he
about
gets
the coffee shop, but don't they
origami
just like drive
unicorn.
north into the woods?
Yeah, in one of the edits, that's what happens.
Yeah.
But he finds the origami unicorn in some of those edits too.
Yeah.
Right at the end.
I guess that's one of the nice things is they can get away with spinning it whatever way they want since they
Captain Adama, Admiral Adama, can show up.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, I want my unicorn back.
Yeah, he's still eating ramen in the background of all the shots.
Yes. He doesn't have any lines. All right. Time for a little section that we occasionally do called Trailer Park when we have enough trailers coming out. New trailer out for Iron Fist, the last of the Defenders to premiere on Netflix. He's very punchy, and he arrives March 17th to punch a lot of things.
Can I confess this is the first of all the Netflix Marvel properties that I just didn't instantly geek out about? And it's not that it's not
punch
good.
You for that.
It's not that it's not good. It looks perfectly good. It's just for the first I'm actually feeling that superhero fatigue. It's starting to feel like there's only so many variations on the same story that we could tell, and I'm starting to feel it, and I'm really bummed about that.
This guy's really strong, except he's got a fist that can
glows.
Punch things, Brian.
Yeah, no, it glows like Extremis from Iron Man 3. And
I do feel like it might be one character too far, right? Original plan was 4 characters coming together as the Defenders, and then they added Iron Fist. And at the time when they added him, I'm like, all right, that's fine. And then they added the Punisher. And I'm like, I think I could go with the Punisher because I got to know the Punisher, and I like the Punisher. But now I got to start with Iron Fist, and apparently we're going to get Karen in The Punisher. But now if they try to bring anyone into Iron Fist, it's going to feel forced from any of the other shows. But I kind of need other people to show up
to have that
tie
connective tissue. Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that this won't be the best thing ever. I'm just saying they got a lot to work through on this.
Trailer is out for the first 6 episodes of season 3 of Black Mirror, coming to Netflix October 21st, and it looks very Black Mirror-y.
Did you enjoy watching and figuring out which
clips are Danny's?
Yeah. Very, very excited about this. Fantastic show. Asking weirdly important questions. You know, as many times science fiction authors have both predicted the future and shaped it. You know, think about how many of our technologies were styled after Star Trek, inspirations and so on. I think that in a world of increased social media presence and live streaming and stuff, I'm so excited about this.
Along with releasing a teaser, Netflix announced the adaptation of Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events will arrive January 13th. And the teaser is just them telling you should probably not watch it because it's very depressing, which is within the world of Lemony Snicket in character.
So it's very, very self-referential.
Yeah, exactly. That's the Netflix stuff. Amazon has a trailer out for Man in the High Castle coming December 16th. And
can I tell you?
It shows Marilyn Monroe singing to Hitler.
This has me excited about getting back into and finishing that full season because it was okay, but then I got distracted, and just not knowing if it was going to have a full legacy or not makes it a little more challenging for me to dive in and make sure to watch it.
And it arrives the same day that Star Wars Rogue One comes to theaters, so that's interesting. You may not have realized they're still making Underworld films with Kate Beckinsale, but guess what? They're still making Underworld films with Kate Beckinsale, and there's a new trailer for Underworld Blood Wars, which opens January 6th.
That's adorable. That's like a little artifact from 20 years ago. Still there. That's
Fans
you know what?
Underworld, I'm really excited about this.
Can I be honest? Like, I feel about this the way every so often I get offended because there's a comment on the Scam School channel from somebody who's now 16 who originally discovered it when he's 8, and you're like, oh wow, this thing's still around. That's crazy. And I'm just like, hey, eat shit, asshole. So that's the way Kate Beckinsale feels about me.
Yeah. To celebrate the 50th anniversary of Roger Corman's Death Race 2000, there's a new direct-to-video Roger Corman's Death Race 2050 coming on January 17th.
Look at him, still doing those death rate movies.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is only the second one. It's not quite.
I know.
But, and it's 50 years later, but it's definitely trying to emulate that 70s aesthetic.
Oh, it does, and it looks campy as hell. Oh, I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about what we're watching. Brian, what have you been watching?
I participated in an illegal leak of a movie and didn't know it, Tom.
Oh, how did that happen?
Well, the other day I was sitting there and waking up and, let me do some work. And then it's like top thing on Reddit was like, hey, BBC's Louis, Louis Theroux's Scientology movie is out. Or it exists, and I click here, and it opens up a player and just starts playing. And I see BBC.
So you didn't go to a site and download anything.
Nope.
You weren't like logging in with some weird credit card number. You just clicked a link. That's all you did.
Clicked a link, and I'm like, hey, I'm watching the movie. And I watched the movie, and it was delightful. And it retreaded a lot of stuff that I'd learned about the Scientology story, but it gave some new angles that I hadn't seen, some amazing footage, and had this awesome kind of like meta narrative about trying to make reenactments of alleged, pieces of the Scientology story. And then it was over. And then I was like, oh, here's an affiliated article on torrentfreak.com trying to figure out where the leak before the theatrical release came out. I felt bad.
And that's the crazy thing about it. And that's, to me, a demonstration of the world we live in can't really hold up to the old ways of doing things when it really is that easy, right? Like the entertainment industry has gone to leaps and bounds, and I'm not criticizing them for wanting to do this. They've gone to leaps and bounds to try to stop us from doing the easy things that technology wants us to do.
Sure. Because
they want to hold on to the old business model as long as they can. We're talking exactly like we're talking about the theaters. But the fact is, if we all could come to an agreement on how to make an orderly transition that would allow that to happen, that would be great. But it's going to be like this in the future. You're going to be able to just click on things and have them play stuff.
Yeah. And in fact, you won't have to even put in a credit card. It'll just, the cloud will know that you wanted to look at a thing, and it will charge you the appropriate amount based on whatever pricing scheme they have and so on. And it'll be great.
The question is, how long will it take us to come up with the social conditions that allow for what technology has made possible to just happen?
By the way, when it does premiere in the U.S. and the U.K., you should watch my Scientology movie. It was quite good. But I did watch a little more Luke Cage, of course, watching Westworld and Justified, and God help me, I watched the debates.
Yeah. So let's not talk about what happened in them, but how did you watch them? I'm curious.
This is good because I didn't want to watch the debates. Bonnie couldn't stop herself.
You just clicked a link.
No, I didn't even. I walked in the room and found Bonnie watching the YouTube live stream of the PBS NewsHour with 103,000 live simultaneous viewers at that moment. And I never even asked her how she found it, but I guess links were abound for digital ways to digitally stream it.
I'm somebody who actually really enjoys the spectacle of the U.S. presidential election every year. It's not new this year, even if this year seems to have more spectacle than usual. And so I tried watching on Twitter for the first debate, but for the vice presidential debate and the one yesterday, I just went ahead and watched on CNN on PlayStation View, because what I found was like I'd watch on Twitter and then they'd go to Bloomberg and I'd be like, I want to see the analysis from the other channels, not this channel, and so I would change it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I also watched the season premieres of Flash and Arrow over the air. I did not use the CW app yet because you know what over the air does? It allows you to fast forward through commercials. So that's what I did. Also watch Westworld and Justified, as you said, and the debates. What have you been on the lookout for, Bryce?
Hey, I saw this on Hulu the other day, and it launched. It's a new show on a new Hulu original called Freakish. It is a 10-episode horror show about a group of kids who are in school on a Saturday, whether it's detention or practice or whatever. And then an explosion at a chemical plant in their town occurs not very far from the school, and they end up stuck in the school, and they can't go out because the air is poisonous, and kids who have escaped are seemingly trying to get back in, but they seem infected. They're not calling them zombies or infected. They're actually calling them freaks, which I think is kind of a weird term to go with. But
I think it plays into the whole high school thing. Like, that's what you call somebody outside of your social tribe, because
Yeah, I guess so.
it sounds like they got a lot of those themes in there.
Yeah, and so it hits on like all of the horror stereotypes of like, someone gets scratched, but they don't want to believe that they're turning. Someone is maybe involved in other things. It's a lot of like twists and turns and stuff, and it's also got supposedly a ton of these people are big Vine stars.
Yeah, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when they announced it. It's Awesomeness TV putting it on, so they've got all these social media stars in it.
Right. So I didn't recognize any of them because I'm not that tapped into Vine, but if you're into Vine, there's probably someone there. And they're also only 22 minutes. They're not hour-longs, which I thought was kind of weird for a horror, drama, thriller sort of thing.
Dude, it's Lawrence of Arabia if you're accustomed to their vines.
I guess so, yeah. So there's 10 episodes of that now. It's on Hulu. It's a pretty easy watch, and it's more bad horror than good. So that's what
I love the idea of there being a 20-minute show that needs an intermission because it's Lawrence of Arabia. Like, oh man, I've been watching this thing for 10 minutes. I gotta take a break. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, by all means, folks, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Now, let's take a break and tell you about me. My book, Pilot X, is available for pre-order. It's coming out March 14th. It is about a time traveler who faces a dilemma. If he wants to save time and space, he may have to eliminate his own and 2 other races. If you want to read about this kind of thing, if it sounds like an interesting story, head on over to inkshares.com, search for Pilot X, or you can go to tommerrittbooks.com and pre-order it there. We've got a hot new cover available on Inkshares if you link over to that side. And at tommerrittbooks.com, I've got other books that I've written in the sci-fi area, or the brief guide to cord cutting, which is only 99 cents. So check all that out at tommerrittbooks.com.
By the way, you're creeping up on a milestone. You are 9 pre-orders away from 900, only 109 from hitting 1,000. That's huge, man.
So if someone could just pre-order 109 copies for their town of 109 people, that would be awesome. All right, let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
We talked about Westworld, but we didn't mention that the second episode was released 2 days early for people on HBO Go, HBO Now, or on demand because they were worried people wouldn't watch Westworld on Sunday night because of the U.S. presidential debate.
I mean, that's a valid concern. Have we seen a lot of pivots in this kind of regard? Like, did they even bother to do a press release, or just one day it just shows up early and
they announced the way I saw it happen was everyone said, whoa, Westworld is available today. You can watch it. And then HBO came out and explained
probably,
oh yeah,
by way of a tweet. It seems like that's a tweet.
Yeah. I mean,
PR
I don't remember exactly how they issued it all the different ways, but yeah, HBO is basically saying instead of not airing something, or instead of just eating
or
the ratings
taking
loss,
a week off. That's normally
we
in
have
the old
we have
days.
a new option.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Well, and plus also, like, that would be difficult on a premiere, but it seems like they're already firmly committed to this story. They're already having people sketch out seasons 5 and 6 and so on. So you could afford to, on the second episode, do something nutty like this. Man, wouldn't it be great to see that data? Pew Research issued a report on a different kind of cord cutting, dropping a home internet connection in favor of a smartphone. In 2015, 13% of U.S. adults used a smartphone as their only net connection, up from 8% in 2013, and adults with home broadband connections dropped from 70% in 2013 to 67% in 2015. Dude, I've experienced this myself. When we got the warehouse space, we looked into commercial internet, and it was insane. To get like 2 megabits would be $500 a month. And so I talked to John, and it's like, I think we could just tether, and if it's really important, we'll drive the few miles over to my house and do it that way. It's astonishing how well that works.
And my mom is this. She has an iPhone, and that's it. She could get cable internet in her apartment and then hook up, a router for Wi-Fi. But why? She just uses her phone. I mean, that's all she would use it for anyway. So you might as well just pay direct.
Yep.
BitTorrent fired its co-CEOs and is closing its LA-based production studio and closing its BitTorrent Now streaming efforts. BitTorrent Now was an ad-supported music and video streaming platform that launched in June. It's not the first time BitTorrent has started a music and video streaming service and then backed away from it, although this does seem pretty quick.
This doesn't affect your friend of mine, Justin Robert Young's gig with
I
BitTorrent
don't know
News.
because that is Justin Robert Young, if you realize, was doing BitTorrent News things, and that is different from BitTorrent now. So I don't know how that happened. Yeah.
Sources tell Bloomberg that AT&T plans to acquire content producers and shift its model towards owning some of the content it distributes. Wonder where they got that idea. AT&T owns DirecTV and has partnered with the Chernin Group and Otter Media, which intends to bring content targeting a young audience to the cord-cutting service DirecTV Now. Boy, I'll tell you what, man, AT&T is pushing hard on the Get Unlimited. I forget what the plan was, but when I went to select plans, I bumped up the data on my phone, and it says, well, we've analyzed your data use, and you know what the best solution is? Get DirecTV so you can have unlimited downloads on your phone.
Yeah, and you look at Comcast, right? They are sort of the leader right now because they have this whole ISP operation and cable television operation, but you know what else they own is NBC Universal. So AT&T and Verizon and Sprint and T-Mobile to a lesser extent are all been fighting like, we don't want to be a dumb pipe. We need to figure out how to make more money off our connection. And they have been thwarted, not at every move, but at a lot of moves. So AT&T's first effort towards this was, well, then we're going to buy DirecTV and we're going to start getting in the game that way. And we think we should buy a content maker too. Now, the question is, they probably can't afford to buy an NBC Universal at this point, but maybe they can afford to buy, like a Lionsgate or something that size. They can't buy Lionsgate, but they could buy something that size. And that will be very interesting. Whereas Verizon, what they did is they went and they bought AOL, and they're in the process of acquiring Yahoo. So they're getting content from that direction, which is a different direction from Comcast. So I think we're going to continue to see this. All of these ISPs are going to realize, hey, man, commoditized internet connections is not where it's at anymore. Now that we can't charge, $1.50 a minute and, $1 for every text message. So let's figure out how we can make money. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see the actual internet service, the carrier service, get spun out of these companies eventually.
Interesting.
DVR is starting to materially affect ratings. During the fall premiere week, 5 programs grew at least 100% from live plus same day to live plus 7-day DVR playback. That's more than ever before. In total, 37 broadcast shows grew by at least 50% in the 18 to 49-year-old range. This means the network will push to charge ad buyers on the 7-day rating. Currently, they generally charge on the 3-day rating. And, up until recently, the overnights were really still what everybody looked at.
Yeah, popular kids app maker Toca Boca has launched Toca TV, a $5 a month subscription service of kid-friendly videos for iOS, Minecraft gameplay, DIY crafts, recipes, songs, and more, made by partners including Broadband TV, DreamWorks TV, Awesomeness TV, Studio 71, and Freedom. I guess if you're already in those ecosystems and your kids are saying, oh, but Susie has it, I got to have it, maybe you just sure, take $5. But there's not a lot of hooks for me to try to introduce this to my kids.
Yeah. Just real quick, going back to that DVR thing, if people didn't quite get what that means, up till now, if you watch a show more than 3 days after it airs on your DVR, it don't count.
Right.
It effectively doesn't count. So this is going to restart that debate about what are people seeing on their DVR, and you're going to start seeing more attention to folks who watch things a week later, which is good. It's good for us.
Right.
Let's get to some dispatches from the front.
This one came from a wireless telegram, faster than a normal letter. By the tweet storm. E. Cardwell says, there was a question about travel routers on Cordkillers. Here's my pick. And he linked us to an Amazon link for the Hutu wireless travel router. Is this the one that we were talking about before, or is this a different one?
No, this is his suggestion. I had said, you probably don't need a wireless travel router. And he said, well, if you do still want one, this one's only like less than $20.
Wow.
And it can even bridge a wireless connection in a hotel room. So you can connect it to Wi-Fi and then resend that signal out through Ethernet.
That's amazing. Good pick.
Chris posted, if you're like me, you've been listening and watching since this was Frame Rate. I'm always looking for more info on streaming services, and Inside.com has a newsletter just for that at inside.com/streaming. They put out a bunch of topics. People vote, and when a topic has enough subscribers, they create a newsletter. Thanks to Chris for posting that over in our Patreon so the other patrons could see it as well.
Right on. Bob writes in, hey guys, first off, thanks for the show. Blah, 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 blah. He says nice things. He says, we've come to the most wonderful time of the year, hockey season. It's also the time where it's toughest for me to be a cord cutter. I'm a Flyers fan living in a Flyers market. My ISP showed me across state in a Pittsburgh location. Last season, I signed up for NHL Game Center, but missed out on a game against the Pens. This season, my ISP has relocated. Yay, faster speeds. So now I'm thinking of signing up for the PlayStation Vue. Vue has the CSN, so I'd get the majority of games along with NBC Sports. Quick questions about the Vue. How does it work for viewing outside the home? If I end up traveling for work outside of my home market, can I still watch the games? I know that when Eklund was on, he mentioned the same problems. Did all of that get cleared up? At home, I was better off using a dedicated service like a Fire Stick or casting it from an Android phone. Thanks for the help. Bob, what do you say?
Yeah, it's crappy for watching outside the home. As Eklund mentioned, he had taken his actual PlayStation with him and plugged it in and had problems because it said, hey, you're not in your home market anymore, buddy. You can't do that. So that's still a problem if you want to like take a Roku even or something. And when you are in your house, you can watch almost everything now on PlayStation Vue on your phone or your tablet. But as soon as you leave your house and it knows that you're not on your home network anymore, it just like locks down a bunch of channels. Some channels are still available, but a bunch of channels are not available on mobile, as it says. So yeah, it's not great for outside of the home. Sling TV is better for outside of the home, and I know they don't have Comcast Sportsnet. And if you're in your house, casting is an option. But honestly, if you have a Fire Stick, I would use that because that's just going to be there all the time. And you don't have to worry about your phone going like, oh, I don't know if you're on your home network anymore. I'm mobile, so I might not be able to let you watch this channel. Fire Stick will always pick up all the channels just fine.
Right on.
We got an email from Blair, who was doing some volunteering the other day, including with me. It was 8 people. I'm 51, and 6 of the people were in their early 20s. So I asked of them about cord cutting, and I received 6 puzzled expressions. So I started saying Roku, Apple TV, and they all went, oh, yeah. Why would you pay for cable when you just want to watch a couple things? Cable's so expensive. So he said all the young people don't even know the term cord cutter because they're just like, what's a cord? Why would I cut it? Of course you never get that.
Yeah, and then he flips it around saying that on the other side, the kids were talking about how they just started lifting, and he thought he meant working out, but it turns out they were talking about the driver service lift.
Oh, right. He was saying,
so
yeah,
he got to be the dumb one on the flip side. Dave82 from the chat room letting us know that Charter called his Uma landline last Friday. They wanted him to sign up for cable. Like always, they wanted to push the triple bundle. He declined the triple bundle, and then she offered him a double bundle. The signal offer was Charter Cable Select plus 60 megabit internet for $96.98. He declined, and then just as they were about to wrap up the call, she says, wait, psych, I mean $86.98 for 12 months. And so he ended up taking it and going for it. I'll tell you what, man, he ended up canceling his Sling TV Orange. He says that it's too annoying to watch AMC programming with all the ads and you can't DVR, and the fact that Sling is spotty service. I think I gave up on it twice from that, although I'll probably give it another try because I'm like a moth to a flame. But at any rate, I think he makes a good point that it may be that the best, most cost-effective solution sometimes is to get cable.
That will be interesting to see. The more he talked about it, he's like, and then I had to upgrade to the silver package. And then I had to pay $20 a month for HBO, which is more than I would pay for HBO now, but I get Cinemax and Showtime. It feels to me, David, like their mojo worked on you and they got you to spend more than you would have wanted because they led you into the path. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. All of your decisions make sense along the way. But yeah, keep us informed as you go along if you're still getting the value out of it that you thought you were getting.
You hear that, David? Tom says you got gut. Just tell us if you did.
I don't know. No, I suspect. I wonder if he got. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We'll find out.
And I want him to tell us. Finally, we have someone wrote in and said it broke their heart that we seem to have given up on the Get Down after only 2 episodes. Yes, the early episodes had some cheesy moments, although much of that seems deliberate, but it is a very fun and in some ways surprisingly accurate, almost fairy tale children's book retelling of the origins of hip-hop, and does an especially good job of showing the 4 elements of hip-hop culture: DJing, b-boying or breaking, MCing, and graffiti writing.
It wasn't so much that I gave up. It wasn't like I threw my hands up like, I can't take this anymore. It's just that I got distracted by something shiny, and it didn't hit home well enough that I got all the way sucked in. But, there may be some time that I'm, I find myself increasingly having moments where I'm just playing Hearthstone and I just want something to be on. And I think, that makes the list. I think there's this most recent season of BoJack Horseman. I still need to get caught up on Man in the High Castle, Transparent, and all that stuff. It's in that bin. Good stuff that just I fell off of.
Yeah, we just got bored. We watched 2 episodes and Eileen was like, I'm done. I don't want to watch anymore. And I was still willing to give it another chance, but because she wasn't, it wasn't enough for me to pick it back up. And that's fine. Like, there's just so much stuff to watch these days. Please don't take it personally if we stop watching a thing that you love. Doesn't mean it's bad.
No, you know what? Go ahead and take it personal. It's a personal indictment in you and your... No, I can't even say it with a straight face. No, please don't take it personally.
Well, that's it for this episode of Cordkillers. Cordkillers.com is our website. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Go cut a cord.
Hey, guys. Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say... thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
let's go.
It's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.